Greetings everyone, Ben here from TheVirtualEconomist, and today I'm going to be talking about tiered items. It seems like nowadays, whenever a new update is released, everyone freaks out when they see that the new case has, yet again, tiered cosmetics. Honestly, I completely see why some people might have a problem with this. However, I think that the majority of people are just not looking into it deep enough to really see what's going on here. Yes, there are problems with the system, but there are also many hidden benefits that make tiered cosmetics just a little bit better than you might think. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and discuss the merits and problems of a tiered cosmetic system, and explain why I think that it might not be as bad as the community makes it out to be. Before I begin, I think it's best to explain what exactly tiered items are in the first place. First implemented in the Gunmetal update, tiered items are when Valve basically assigns a predetermined rarity to each item in the case. In essence, it is just a blatant copy of CSGO's grading system. You can clearly see the rarities when you view the contents of the crate, and the items that are highest on the list are the rarest, with the items that are lowest on the list being the most common. This splits item rarity into different tiers, with the gray-blue civilian grade being the most common, followed by freelance, mercenary, commando, assassin, and elite being the very rarest. Basically, when you open a case, you are far more likely to unbox a mercenary than a commando, more likely to unbox a commando than an assassin, and so on and so forth. When the dust settles, this basically means that elite grade items are very expensive, while civilian, freelance, and mercenary grade items are basically worthless. Since its inception in 2015, people have traditionally disliked the system for one main reason. It creates artificial scarcity, making many items worth far more than they quote-unquote should be, essentially making people mad because they can't get certain specific items without paying a lot. Before the Gunmetal update, apart from a few exceptions, each item in a crate had the exact same odds of being unboxed. So if you unboxed an end-of-the-line crate, you had the exact same odds of getting something awesome like a cold snap coat, or getting something worse like the fur-lined fighter. Yes, you had a pretty common chance at getting something terrible, but you also had a pretty common chance at getting something pretty good. And people liked this system because naturally the good items would be worth the most and the bad items would be worth the least. With tiered cosmetics, however, this isn't necessarily the case, and that's what a lot of people don't like. Now, here's where I want to make a different point. After all, this video is titled In Defense of Tiered Cosmetics. The argument that I want to make is based off one important fact. Without unboxing an unusual, unboxing is seldom profitable. It is essentially an all or nothing system where either you double or triple what you put in with an unusual unbox, or lose pretty much all the value altogether. Sure, there have been exceptions in the past, but I would say that 95% of the time, unboxing yields an item worth far less than the key you put in to unbox the crate in the first place, i.e. making you waste all your money when you don't unbox an unusual. Now, historically, it does seem that the only time that you can unbox something worth more than a key was when you unbox something rare like certain strange items or a professional killstreak kit. Now, think about that for a moment. The only time unboxing yields an item worth more than a key is when you unbox an item that is rarer than normal. You see what I'm getting at here? Those items are basically tiered. It is how they can sustain a higher price tag, making it possible for you to make more than the cost you sunk into unboxing the crate in the first place. Tiered items are the exact same principle except on steroids. In a system with common mercenary grade items to rare elite grade items, the higher the item is in tier, the rarer it is, and in turn the more it will be worth. So when somebody unboxes new crates, they have a chance at unboxing more valuable items. Of course, this system does mean that you will unbox far more items with lower tiers, but considering that those items were going to be worthless anyway, it doesn't really make much of a difference. The sheer chance of getting something very expensive completely makes up for this. For instance, assassin grade items can easily maintain a price of over a key, and elite grade items can be worth as much as 10 keys, as much as a cheap unusual. Plus, every item in a tiered case can itself be a strange item. So, strange commando items can be easily worth 2 to 3 keys, strange assassin items around 10 keys, and strange elite items can be as much as 25 keys. Sure, it is not statistically probable that you will unbox a bunch of assassin, elite, or strange items, but what it does do is put a bunch of chase items into a crate that are not unusuals, making it easier to unbox something worth significantly something. Thus, I would argue that the main benefit of tiered cosmetics is that they make unboxing more profitable. However, I would also argue that there are two other great assets of tiered cosmetics. The second benefit is actually far more psychological than practical, but the tiered cosmetic system actually seems to make people far more happy with their unboxing, even if luck is against them. I mean, you might get upset when you unbox a bunch of mercenary SMGs, but if you really watch new unboxing videos, people get really excited when they see that they've unboxed a couple of pinks, even if they're not worth a whole lot. They may not have gotten their money back, but people seem to feel much better with a horrible unboxing knowing that they got more rare items, rather than a pile of worthless craft hats. If the second benefit was very psychological, the third benefit is very, very practical. You can list all of the tiered cosmetics on the community market, unlike most items from old crates. For me, this is very helpful in getting rid of low tier newly unboxed items. The community market allows you to sell untradeable items, so you can easily get rid of these new items while the hype is in full swing for significantly more than you would get in the long term. Plus, in a world of 24 ref keys, it's just not worth most people's time to try to find a buyer who would want to buy all your new items in refined metal. So, the community market works very well in this regard. While I've talked about the benefits of tiered cosmetics, I do admit that there are some flaws with their current implementation. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is discuss each flaw and then offer some possible remedies for each problem. Just like everybody else ever, I do have a problem with artificial scarcity. However, probably not in the same way that a lot of other people are looking at it. Even with item tiers, the market still does play a significant part in the price of an item. If an elite item is horrible, even if it's rare, it will not be worth anything. Just look at the Sucker Slug, a heavy cosmetic from the Invasion update. It's worth less than 1 key despite its insane rarity. If you look at it the other way, there is a reason why the banana hat is worth over 10 keys. If the elite item is amazing, it will be worth a lot. Now, it might sound counterintuitive, but my problem with artificial scarcity is that it only works when the best items are the rarest. Just think about it, if crap items are rare, who cares? They are crap, and they're not going to be worth anything. People are only going to be able to have a more profitable unboxing experience if all the best items are the rarest. And my problem with this is that it just seems like Valve has been assigning arbitrary rarities for each item. For example, who thought that the Class Clown or the Sucker Slug were good elite items? They're just regular old hats, anybody could find a cheaper substitute, thus they will not be worth anything. For items to actually hold value to make unboxing more profitable, the best, most unique items without similar substitutes need to be the rarest, and the worst, more normal type items need to be the most common. This is why the Potassium Bonnet and the Bat Saber work so well as elite items. They are very unique and people are willing to pay a higher price for them. Now, I can just predict the argument of the skeptic here. Well, if bad rare items are not worth much, then we should just put all the bad items at Assassin and Elite rarities, and just keep all of the good items at Mercenary, right? Well, yes, you could do that, but it would defeat the entire purpose of the tiered cosmetic system in the first place. All the good items would be unboxed infinitely, making them dirt cheap, and all the horrible items would be worthless since nobody would trade for them despite their rarity. So, essentially, we would be better off without tiered cosmetics. And I, of course, here am trying to argue that the tiered cosmetic system is good. Thus, I think the solution to this problem would be exactly as I just described. Valve would just need to make sure that the best items are the rarest and the worst items are the most common. My second problem is the unnecessary confusion that tiered items produce. When you unbox a mercenary grade item, you see it in-game as a blue item. Thus, it's only natural to assume that it's a mercenary type item. However, it is actually a unique item with a mercenary rarity. And you can see this when you view your backpack out of game, where the border is the normal yellow. And the same problem exists not only with unique items, but also with stranges and unusuals. On top of that, I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks this way, but I find it very triggering that all the new items have bright, awesome colors, while the old ones are just the standard bland yellow, making it even weirder that a mercenary item and a craft hat are actually the same type, unique. I like that these new tiered items show their color prominently in-game, but in doing so, it is very easy to get confused. Honestly, there is a very simple fix to this problem, and Scrap.tf has actually already come up with it. When you buy new skins or cosmetics on Scrap.tf, they clearly show you how the item is both unique and mercenary at the same time by their diagonal shading. So, if Valve just implemented something like this, it would be awesome. As for the contrast between new tiered items and old cosmetics, I honestly wouldn't mind if Valve just embraced the item tiers and, similarly to vintage items, just gave each old item a new grade, such as say common, that would clearly signify with a color that those items came from a crate in which each item had an equal chance of being unboxed. The last problem that I wanted to address was with unusuals. See, the tiered item system doesn't just affect the normal items out of a case, it also affects the unusual unboxes. While I do argue that the tiered cosmetic system works well on regular items, it screws heavily with the unusual market, something that lives off rarity. So far, all cosmetic cases have had the lowest tier be mercenary, meaning that by far the most common unusual unboxes are mercenary. There are just so many of them in existence, and when Valve only lets new hats be unboxable with new effects, you get crazy nightmare scenarios where there are almost 100 Neutron Star Banditos in existence. Holy crap. Just like lower value items, as you go up the scale, you get rare and rare unusuals. Commando unusuals are more common than assassin unusuals, and so on and so forth. If a mercenary is way too extreme on the common side, then the elite is far too extreme on the rare side. If any hats are placed at elite rarity, well, good luck getting any. They are so rare that they basically do not exist and present artificial scarcity at a frightening extreme. Now, as I have said before, I don't care that amazing, awesome hats like the Potassium Bonnet are as rare as they are. I mean, it's an insane unusual, and honestly, I don't have a problem with it being an expensive collector's item. The problem, of course, arises when you mix horrible elite grade hats with insane unusual rarity. Like I pointed out in past videos, there are less than 20 of each elite grade hat in existence. Thus, when you have an insanely rare but crappy heavy hat with a crappy effect, what are you supposed to value it at? Nothing because it looks horrible? Or as much as a god tier all-class misc due to its rarity? Well, so far, precedent on backpack.tf has said that these extremely rare horrible hats are actually incredibly expensive, selling for as much as 200 to 500 keys. And the problem I have with this is that these hats are suddenly absolute cancer. And I mean, think about it. Who the hell would want to pay 300 keys for a magnetic hat protector sucker slug? I sure the hell wouldn't. Thus, almost every single bad elite unusual is cancer and winds up doing the economy a huge disservice. The solution? Well, Valve could do a number of things. First, they could just ignore tier when it comes to unusuals. This would actually fix most of the problems. Suddenly, there would be less mercenary grade hats spamming the market, and there would actually be a bunch of elite grade hats out there. However, if they wanted to preserve some of the rarities of the tiers, they could actually just keep the current rarity system, except for never put any hats at elite grade, making sure that all the rare cancers unusuals are never unboxed in the first place. Or they could just adjust the rarity so each tier is still higher in rarity than the next, but nowhere near the extremes that mercenary and elite grade items have right now. There are a number of fixes, and I don't really think that Valve should have any trouble addressing this. So basically, this has been my opinion on tiered items. While ultimately I do think that there are problems with the current implementation of the system, I do think that tiered cosmetics are a good step in the right direction in many ways. The way I see it, they are great for the unboxer, but a little bit less so for the buyer, someone who buys them off the secondary market. With tiered cosmetics, the unboxer has the potential to get far more valuable items out of their unboxing sessions, which helps greatly at making unboxing more profitable, especially when you don't get an unusual. As for the people that will inevitably complain about expensive items, I really do want to point out that buyers are heavily spoiled when it comes to item prices in the past. I mean, there are so many dirt cheap cosmetics out there in existence that if people can't trade for maybe 1 or 2 items out of a new case, they really shouldn't be complaining. I also do want to say that tiered items seem to be a great step forward in modernizing TF2. I really can't name another game out there with items that are not tiered, and as I've said before, I really do think that tiered items help give unboxing more of a purpose and makes you feel much better when you don't get an unusual. All the problems that I discussed above can easily be fixed, and honestly, if they are, I really do think that we can rest assured that tiered items are welcome in the future of TF2. Until next time guys, thanks for watching.